Garrett.
What's up for it?
Hey man. How you doing?
I'm good. I thought this was going to be a webinar. I didn't realize it was going to be on the screen.
This is my first webinar, so we're learning as we go. Um, and I'm actually gonna keep pretty short. And I was gonna cover a broader swath of topics, but I I want to make sure I only talk about stuff that like I feel really good about talking about, and I need to do more preparation. But yeah, this is, you gotta start with the first.
Good name.
Yeah, this is a new thing for me. But but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Hopefully, hey Michael, hey Robert, how y'all doing?
Hey, how are you?
Doing
Good,
great.
good.
Hey, good evening.
And hopefully we can make this a bit of an interactive discussion because the group is relatively small. But my goals for today here, I'll share share my little presentation. Um, all right, I got multiple screens open, and my fan is humming on my laptop. So I'm gonna hope for the best here. Share, share. All right. How does that look?
Looking good.
You can see the screen?
It's like it just came straight out of the typewriter. It's perfect.
I wish. Okay, cool. All right. So, let's go. So the reason I wanted to do this webinar tonight was to touch base with other people in the tech community and share a little bit about what I was thinking on this topic. I have observed in the past 12 months, as you guys also have, interesting trends in the realm of software engineering and specifically in the realm of software as a service. And this is relevant, I think, to everyone who's an engineer, because if you are an engineering leader or an entrepreneur or even just a heads down expert programmer, you are probably scratching your head at some of the emergence in this that we're seeing, that we're all referring to as AI. And as I was been kind of grounding myself in what is actually happening, I've found myself looking to surfing as for analogies on how to make sense of everything. And so this talk kind of goes into a couple things that I have been thinking about. And hopefully it can shed some light, stir up some ideas, and we can have a little discussion at the end, because I'm curious what you guys have observed. But I'll get right into it. I spent some time in the South Pacific region of Costa Rica and spent specifically time at a beach called Playa Chaman. And I would go there in the morning and I would surf, and then I would start my day. And it was a really cool beach because it was a couple minutes from my house and it was very quiet, and I got to just kind of hang out in the water and think about life. I also suck at surfing, and so I would get tossed by the waves and crushed by them. And as I was cursing the gods, paddling back out after getting tossed in a wave, I would have to really you know face my higher power. And so I had a lot of moments out there in the waves rethinking everything. And so the first thing is who I am. I was an English major who thought about becoming a lawyer and eventually decided that engineering was the best application of my talents. I currently run a consultancy out of Richmond, Virginia called Flying Pig Labs, and we are Richmond's only AI only dev shop, which means that we are focused exclusively on AI applications, both from the vantage point of companies who created AI solutions using AI tools that aren't fit for production and they need help deploying them, which is kind of my bread and butter. And then also we are looking at ways to use agent swarms to solve that problem and also, interact with legacy code bases and eventually create autonomous systems. And if you need help in any of those areas, let me know. And I like surfing, and I see a lot of analogies about how life works through the lens of surfing. So the first thing that I thought about with this talk is a surfing principle, which is that position beats paddling. And you get a lot of and there are a lot of different, basically every sport has an analogy similar to this or a principle similar to this. But the idea is that, like, when you're out on the waves, you can paddle around and look for the best wave, because oftentimes you'll look to the left or to the right and see like a good wave set coming in, and you'll think to yourself, oh man, I should paddle over there. But really what you should do is stand at the beach before you even get in the water and figure out where you want to be. And the idea is that if you chase the waves, you're going to miss the waves. And what you need to do is read the ocean patterns and figure out where you want to be and then wait. And so the idea in this rapidly changing AI space is asking ourselves, okay, where is the puck headed? And everyone's going to have their own clever answer to this question. But I think you need to be thinking about, I would say, whatever timeline you are apt to thinking about when you're looking at trends in technology. Think about specifically how many years are you looking outward, when you're thinking about where because, like, I guess for people who aren't in technology, or aren't doing this all day every day, you may be like wondering, like, okay, what does he mean by, like, where is the puck headed? But if you're an engineer, like, a lot of what we do is looking at technology that's being developed and figuring out how it applies, because it's constantly changing. And then as like a professional, you're thinking like, okay, what do I need to be learning right now? Like, yeah, I need to be keeping the lights on and keeping my production application running. But like as a professional, like what do I need to be, like, where do I need to be triangulating? It's kind of a stressful field to be in, to be honest, because you're constantly thinking about, like, all right, what do I need to, like, spend this weekend learning or spend tonight learning? Like, what are my learning objectives? Keeps you sharp, which I think is good, but it's also kind of exhausting sometimes. So I think, like, again, my point really is thinking about where the puck is headed. Be specific on a 2 year timeline, whatever your timeline is. It could be 5 years. I wouldn't go past 5 years if you're trying to plan in this day and age. I wouldn't even go past 2 years, but really think about whatever that timeline is and then half it. Put that, like, say you think that you're imagining where things are going to be in 5 years. I would just go ahead and strike that number in half, just from a mental model standpoint, to like accelerate, assuming everything will be accelerated. Okay. Um, and because, like, things appear to be changing exponentially despite Moore's law, having sort of collapsed. I think it's emerging in new ways. I think that the trend is the trend, right? Um, and the second thing is, okay, so let's say you're looking at this triangulation. Okay, where do I want to, where, like, my stack, my company, myself, where do I want to be in X amount of years? Where is the puck headed? How can I meet the puck where it is at the right time to score the goal? As I'm trying to get there, remember, you shouldn't be changing more than one thing at a time. Okay, so let's say you're a developer and you're, a cloud provider, a software stack, and language. Well, I think an important thing for you to be doing is changing just one of those things at a time. It's tempting to want to change all of them and say, man, maybe I need an overhaul. Maybe I need to learn a brand new thing. But a wise person once told me, change one thing at a time. And I think this applies to engineering. If you one PR at a time, your PRs should be like independent, and they should be standalone, and they should be able to be tested and validated before and after they're deployed. And so I think keeping that in mind is super important. Change one thing at a time, and then make sure it's the right change, and then change another. And so the last thing on position beats paddling is stay on your toes. So you should stay ready to paddle if you need to. And what I mean by that is we have like there are people in my field, including my former boss, who has a strong belief that the layoffs that we're seeing have nothing to do with AI, and that's more about the interest rates and macroeconomics. I I am not an economist, but I my gut is to disagree and say I think this has a lot to do with AI actually. But again, who do I know? The bottom line is I think we are in an era of software engineering where you should stay on your toes. And this goes back to the title of the presentation that I'll get into more in a minute, which is the macro shift to MicroSaaS. But we all need to be staying on our toes and thinking about like what do I do, what do I bring to the table, what am I good at? Okay, and this is going to apply to slides in just a minute, but like um think about where you want to be, where's the puck headed, assume it's going to get there twice as fast than you're imagining, change one thing at a time as you try to get to where the puck is going, and then throughout the whole process stay on your toes, be ready to get laid off, honestly. I think that's like a good, healthy, hygienic mentality to have right now in this industry. Assume you're going to get laid off tomorrow. What would you do? I wouldn't have said that like in the past, but I think that's definitely very true right now. Assume there's going to be mass layoffs, right? And don't maybe even assume that you'll be the one who gets laid off. Assume like, what am I going to do when half my team gets laid off, or what am I going to do? Am I in like a good leadership? Am I in at a good company right now who would handle that kind of change gracefully? And then also like, how can I make sure I'm not one of the people that get laid off? How can I make myself indispensable? Which has always been the truth, or something that we should be thinking about. So anyway, that's my long slide on position beats paddling. I think like we all should be positioning ourselves rather than chasing things. And before the AI revolution, on this slide, I would have said like just do like network. Like as corny as it sounds, even if you're not in sales, like get out there, meet people, talk to people, don't live in a bubble. And now I'd say that's even more true. And I would also apply these 3 bullet points in addition to that. Next slide. Don't half-ass the drop. Okay. One thing I had to learn is that when a good wave comes, you cannot like you paddle 3 or 4 times, you pop up on your board, and then you turn. And that's what you do every time. And you don't question any of those steps. Otherwise, you're going to end up under the wave instead of on top of it. And so when I think about this specific slide in terms of like this AI revolution, I think of vibe coding, and I think of all the half-assed vibe coded solutions out there. And what I would say about that is if you vibe with purpose and commit all the way. And what I mean by that is like find a problem that you want to solve and then use vibe coding to solve it. Don't get halfway there and give up. Like go all the way. Like you're an engineer, like you're a professional. Like if you're gonna try out these tools, I like the idea that the tools are designed for you just to kind of dip out whenever you want. But from my perspective, you get value out of the whole vibing thing when you use it to get all the way there. So do some upfront soul work, journal, figure out actually what you want to do, and then use these powerful tools to actually follow through. And then if you really want to like dial it up, whatever, like, and this is something that I've tried to do. I've actually I've done it with just showing it to one person, but I get the thing that I'm working on all the way to production, and then I show it to one person. And the in the past, it's been actually 2 people that I've leveraged for this that I've shown a bunch of things to. But I've just made sure as a point of like principle that whatever I do, I show to somebody, and I am proud of it. I think these are just like as you're playing around with these tools, I think like you can do so much so quickly. They're so expressive that I think it's important to like give yourself structure. That leads me to the next 2 points, and this is more applied to internal. If you're a manager and a leader and you see your people playing around with AI tools, awesome. Do your work faster. Take Fridays off if you get all your stuff done. Go farther with less. Wonderful. but we also need to remember that some of these tools are like dead ends. And if you don't apply them with like structure and focus, you can just waste time and create bad software and cause more problems for more people later on. And so as you're talking about these tools at work, as you're because we can all goof around and build apps in our spare time, but at work we don't have time for that. We need to build the right thing at the right time, and it needs to be good, and it needs to be great. In fact, it needs to be excellent every time. Right? Why people keep us around, because we know what excellence is, and then we apply that. So I think like when people talk about like someone's going to mention tomorrow in a meeting, oh my gosh, like we should like get Cursor a license for everyone on our team, or we should get a, you know, like utilize Claude Code. Great, let's do it. We're going to document everything. We're going to share learnings, and we're going to apply structure throughout the entire process. Like that's what we do as a team. These are great tools, but you don't just give a bunch of you don't give people firearms without training. And so I think like these tools, like a lot of them, like for example, Claude Code has a lot of really powerful pre-hooks and post hooks that you can configure as a team to make sure there's like security checks up front, to make sure that things are like that intention is there before the request is made. And then on the returning side from the Claude Code invocation, you can make sure, for example, testing is run. You can make sure documentation is updated, and then you can make sure summarizations are provided that can then be used to like essentially train into like the idea of the model that's powering Claude Code, so that the Claude Code can begin to learn about how your team behaves. These things are valuable as an enterprise on a team. But if you just kind of goof around with Cursor and say, hey, like, you can write software faster, I think you essentially provide a way to create a lot of tech debt faster, which is not good. So I think like a lot of these tools, yeah, like bring them into your org, bring them into your team, but apply structure. Do it in a very like structured way. This is like what we're all good at, right? We come into ambiguous spaces, problems, and we apply structure, and then we win. And that's what makes us good engineers. And do the same thing. And then on the other side of it, demand evidence. So like like one thing that like a coworker did on my team at Amazon was they said, okay, let's both you create a solution and I'll create a solution to the same problem, and I'm going to do it without vibe coding and you do it with vibe coding, and we'll see who's is better. And so like I think like we need to be like, I think, pushing back a little bit on a lot of these vibe coding tools, in a playful way. So don't be an asshole about it, but just have fun. So that's the don't half-ass the drop. So like if you're going to use these tools, like do it as if you're shipping something into prod, into space, where lives are on the line. And I think it will behoove everyone. Okay. So another thing, is position or picking your board. So when you're surfing, there's like you can do short board, you can do long board, you can do somewhere in between. And a lot of what like when I first got into surfing, I was told, "Oh my gosh, dude, you got to do like a short board, right? Short boards are more fun. They're more like you can carve more. You can pop up quicker, and they're just smaller and easier to get around." But I had to do some soul searching and be like, okay, well, who am I? What am I good at? And so I ended up picking an 8 foot board, almost 8 feet. And that was my board that I used. And so it was based on what I was already good at. And my body type, I'm a heavier guy, and I don't move as quick. And so I had to pick a board that was like fit who I am. And so what I would say with the AI revolution, know your tools. What's out there, and then what are you good at? And then apply what you're good at to the tools that you could potentially use to do what you're good at, right? So again, this is like you guys are probably already doing this, so I'm not going to talk really much more than that, but like know what your tools are, and then the next one, invest wisely in them. So become an expert at them. So don't just like pick up tools and then drop them afterwards. There's so many AI tools out there right now. Pick one up, vet it carefully, and get good at it, period. As you hear about new tools in your domain, apply them. So like I am constantly inundated with like these new abstractions on top of LLMs that do cool things with software engineering. Great. Every time I hear a new one, I have one or two use cases that I have in my brain and I apply them to that. And if they don't fit in those use cases, I drop the newsfeed. I don't read the article. And this is just a way for me to like navigate through a barrage of information that I can never possibly stay on top of. And so essentially, when I look at a new tool, I'm like, can it work for enterprise? Yes or no? And does it allow you to take things to production really quickly? Because those are two things I'm like very interested in. Um, and and then I'm beginning to monitor like, could it be deployed by agents in the cloud? Those are like three things I'm constantly looking at. Really, it's just those two though. Can it ship the product quicker and does it work for enterprise? And I'm like, everything I hear, I filter through those lenses. And then lastly, stay current. So as you're thinking about all these tools, you can like create, like for example, on ChatGPT, you can create these like get ChatGPT to send you a manifest. I get one for live music on Monday, and then I get one for on Friday. So like for the one on Monday, it's what are the live music shows playing in Richmond this coming weekend, and then I get one on Friday that says over the past week, what are the things that the new AI tools that were released in this space that I should know about. It's actually just like it's AI news. And so I get like a curated news feed. And so like you can customize that as much as you want. So create ways for you to stay on top of the news, right? Because you want to know what the stuff is before like as it's coming, so you can stay on top of it. So just stay current, right? You pick your way to do it. None of this has really changed. There's some fancy tools to do it now, but find a creative strategy to stay current. All that is in the realm of like pick your board carefully and get good at it. Okay, you can't surf all the boards. Pick one and get good at it. Pick one domain, one tool set, and get really good at it. And this is almost like career advice. This is it doesn't even really have to do with AI, to be honest. Um, Next slide. Okay. And this is one of the last ones. So you only get better by getting wet. You can watch YouTube tutorials all day long. But for engineers, you know, create a container, launch an EC2 instance, create a virtual environment, install packages, write software, period. Like just keep doing that. Don't stop doing that. Every time you see a cool thing out there, actually deploy it. Don't just like read about it and watch a YouTube video on it and think you know it. You only get better by getting wet, right? You only get better by getting out there and trying and failing. Are you going to succeed in everything you try to build? No, definitely not. Should you build time to fail? 100%. Should you also commit to delivering solutions? Also that. But in terms of just like you have to make time, and as these new AI tools and paradigms are coming down the pike and applying to your daily life as an engineer, you got to practice. You got to get out there and put attention on them and actually attempt to use them. Are you going to suck at them? Yes. Are you going to like not get past the installation step? Yes, that stuff happens. I downloaded Strands, AWS Strands. It's an SDK. And it took me I've been doing this for 10 years. It took me 3 hours to get past all of the dependency errors in Python and and actually get my first deployed to Amazon and get my first like tutorial. Like I was following a tutorial and it like didn't work because it was published 3 days before. And again, like that kind of stuff happens. And again, you only get better by getting wet, and you only get better by getting in front of the command line, building tools and watching them fail and getting frustrated, and then going and doing vigorous cardio afterwards to relieve yourself of the anxiety and stress. So anyway, that's the principle here. You only get better by getting wet. Like yes, you can vibe code stuff now, but like you got to practice. It just doesn't. This stuff is not going to come naturally. All right. All right. And so, how do you accelerate? How do you stay on top of stuff? Um, like these are just four ideas that I have personally done, and that I have used, but I'm sure there's more. But they all have an element or a shared theme of focus. Hackathons are a great way to carve out time in your life to focus on things as a team. So wherever you work, whatever team you're on, meet your teammates and say, hey, like I got a crazy idea. Next Friday after lunch, instead of fucking around in the office for 4 hours before we leave, let's like all get together and get focused and serious and try to fix something, and like, or create something that we've never created before, something crazy. And call it a hackathon. It can be just 4 hours. It doesn't have to be a weekend thing or even a full day. It can be a hack half day. Additionally, like create a weekend sprint for yourself. So next weekend, be like, you know what? Like I got commitments during the day, but I have an hour in the morning and I have 2 hours after the kids go down at night. I'm gonna like create some goals. I did this for years, honestly, before the whole AI thing. I would like create a goal and be like, you know what? I'm gonna stay up Friday night and Saturday night late, maybe even beyond 2 hours. I'll drink a cup of coffee after the kids go down. Actually, for me, it'd be drink a cup of coffee as the kids are going down while I'm putting them down, so that I'm ready to go and I don't need a nap before I get after it. Um, Come up with your own strategy, but weekend sprints are a great way to like kind of like start get excited. You know, like this weekend I'm gonna do my daily stuff and be with my family and you know my existing commitments. But I'm gonna try to like get something done this weekend. I'm gonna set a goal for Sunday night so I can look at what I've done and get ready to share it with somebody. Even if it's just like, here's what I learned. I built nothing. I failed in every way, but here's what I learned. That's valuable. So that can be done in a weekend sprint. Um, Even more than that, I think retreats and conferences are a great way to step aside and get out of the noise and build something. So, like, what I would suggest for you guys is like, okay, like, what would that look like for you to just remove yourself entirely, create an isolated environment, turn your phone off, like, you know, close all your tabs, turn off Slack, and then just focus on something. And then lastly, get involved in the community. Come to I do an event practically every week in the community, like in person, and definitely one every month. So like come to one of those. Like let's meet in person, let's talk. If you have an idea on a like a community event or a community project you want to do, I'm all about that. So let's get together, meet over Slack, meet over coffee, and we can talk about it. There's like a zillion communities already out there in the like, you know, you can also bring your like there's a zillion communities already out there just in technology where it's a bunch of nerds talking about tech. There's also like if you whatever thing community you're already plugged into, like everyone on this call has a community of some kind, like some group of people that could potentially help. Go to them and be like, hey, I got some cool ideas and I want to like practice them. It's this whole thing with AI. And I think maybe we could apply these AI, like these new AI tools or paradigms or opportunities to this like thing that we all care about and we're all annoyed about, even if it's just planning Labor Day barbecue weekend down at the river or whatever it is, you know, like like no matter what you're doing, you have a community, you have family, you have friends, even if you begrudgingly don't love them sometimes, and you can help them. So like get involved. Okay. So those are just four ideas. I'm sure there's more, but that's stuff that I've personally done that I've found like accelerates my learning. All right. And then the last one is stay calm underwater. Like engineering is just one thing that we do. Solving problems is just one task of being a human. And like we are we are complicated people that don't just think about AI all day. And so realize that like what's happening right now, this transition is like way bigger than us. And there's going to be moments that like it's just going to the wave is going to fall over you, right? Like and when you're underneath the wave it's going to feel chaotic, and so that's totally fine. So if you're like here right now and you're like, dude, like I thought this guy Ford was going to like somehow, you know, share the secret wisdoms of life and make this like feel okay, like make me not scared of the future, and I'm super disappointed, that's totally fine. Like that's how this is like that's how things are almost every day. And so like I think we should embrace that, honestly. And maybe it's like my inner Buddhist speaking right now, but I think like, you know, we never had stability to begin with. All we had was the illusion of stability. And I think as we go about this journey with like, as witnesses and as partners, as this software transition's happening, I think like we need to realize that like we're gonna get beat by it, we're gonna get juked by it, and it's not gonna feel good. And then like we love what we do. We're engineers. We like to solve puzzles. We like to solve problems. We like to help people. None of that's going to change. That's who we are. And so we're going to constantly get beaten and then return back to this problem space with fresh eyes and a fresh spirit. And so the real people who are going to succeed in this field is people who can be liquid and fluid, right? I was talking to a friend today in a coffee shop about this Polish sociologist who has this principle called his name's Ziegler. I forget his first name, but it's called liquid modernity. And basically his thing is like the people who are going to be able to like really thrive in this new world are people who are able to be liquid and are able to like adapt and change. And it's very feels very like honestly like feminine and strange sometimes to be like so flexible and like feminine is maybe like that's my projection, but like it feels like a weird thing to like invite this whole AI thing, but I think like it's happening and it's important. And I think the people who are going to succeed in this field are going to be those who realize they're going to get juked and shaken up by it, and then just reorient themselves and come back into it with devotion and like surrender. So I think like that's your like stay calm, carry on and realize that it's not going to feel good, a lot of this. And like we need to like kind of suck it up and be leaders and for ourselves and our communities and our teams and like aggressively rededicate ourselves every day to the things that we care about, which is if you're an engineer or an entrepreneur, it's solving problems and helping people. Okay. So like none of that changes. Stay calm. You're probably going to feel like you're underwater at some point, and that's totally okay. All right, so that's really I think all I had. I may have left some slides on here at the end. Let's see, and I only have 7 minutes left. Yeah, we've talked about all this, and that's it. All right, so that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this talk. I want to do another one. I will do another one of these, which is more about the MicroSaaS aspect to the title. The short of it is that when I said we need to stay on our toes, I think we all need to be thinking about this new emerging landscape where monoliths are being deconstructed by software. And so, like the software layer, while it is consolidating in some ways, I think we need to be looking at the businesses that we're working for and the problem sets that we're approaching, and like for ourselves, attempt to carve out. And this is kind of an entrepreneurship idea, but carve out specific jobs to be done and problems and target groups of people that are having these problems, and then realize and start to think about our careers and our teams as like solving a very specific problem that could potentially be essentially like turned into its own business. And like gone are the days I think where like the barrier to entry in a marketplace is like strength and power. I think it's creativity and speed now. And so these tools are allowing more and more competitors to enter the marketplace. And I think that especially from an entrepreneurship lens, like this idea that you as an individual can take an application all the way to production and run your own business through the internet, through AI, is actually possible now. At least we're getting very close to that. And so I think like, I'm not sure what context you guys are coming from, but like your business will be challenged even if you work for a huge corporation. And so I think like and this is what I'll leave you guys with. Everyone on this call has a domain that they're good at, a thing that you've been dedicating yourself to for the past X amount of years. It may be you may have worked for an insurance company and you know insurance really well. You may have worked for a financial services company, you know finances really well. And you may not even realize you've gotten good at it and become a domain expert. But regardless of what it is, you've gotten good at something, And what I would challenge you to do, and this will be the focus of the next talk that I do, um, is you need to, I would encourage and challenge you to think about a micro SaaS solution that you could deploy overnight that would solve a niche aspect of that problem space. Not a broad aspect of it, a niche aspect of it. One thing that no one else is doing that you know a lot about. And I'll get into kind of like why I think that's really relevant. But I think what we will see the a big shakeup in how software is being sold over the next 3 years. And I think niche applications that could be like carved out and sold in a short period of time upstream, I think are going to be the next way to earn, to cash out. And I think I've been talking to a lot of investors, and like both from like the hedge fund side and also the private equity side and the venture capital in the middle. And that's the trend that's emerging. They're looking at 6-month timelines on investments instead of 12-month timelines. And last year, 2 years ago, they were looking at 2-year timelines. And that's, we're beginning to see this like weird thing happening in the software space where like the unicorns are going to happen overnight instead of like being a product of 3 years, 5 years, 10 years of investment. So anyway, we'll get into more of that later. But really, like the way I thought about it was like not everyone's going to be interested in that discussion. So this was kind of like the first layer of this talk, which is like I think every engineer should be thinking as an entrepreneur right now, staying on their toes, getting ready to be laid off tomorrow, or getting ready to advocate for their team and their product as if it were a startup. I think that's the phase that we're in right now with software engineering, and I think that's the way we should be positioning ourselves. I think surfing is a great way to think about like these principles and actually like for me at least to it's a great model that I can use to think about how to position myself in this field, in this changing space. And I leave the floor in the remaining 2.5 minutes to for you guys to chime in and let me know how you feel about all this. No, that was a rambling Matt.
Sorry, Ford, got the kids around me.
Hey kids.
No, I was curious what your thoughts are around this idea of uh us entering the death of SaaS in general and what to you what does that mean and what might that future look like?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question. Like because in some ways, I think the major LLM providers are going to begin to offer like subtle tools and widgets and slash commands that are going to like take the place of some of these SaaS tools. Um,
Mhm.
I think like the more general that I think really the only insight I have for you, Matt, is like the more general the application is, the more likely or the quicker you're going to see it get destroyed by the major providers. And so like I think that's the only real like insight I have is that like the more general it is, the more quickly it's going to get devoured. And when I think of the SaaS space, I think of like if you want to win in the SaaS space or you want to work for a company that's going to survive, the leadership needs to be a domain experts and they need to know what they're doing. Um, and they need to be like grounding everything they're doing in like their industry as opposed to like trying to become like a hub and spoke for every use case out there. I have less than a minute and the call is going to end. Michael, do you want to?
Yeah, I just want to take a quick second and say I really appreciate you when you're talking about making your own community. That's what I've done. I've been to a few of your events, and it seems like the more I put myself out there, the more that this community is starting to form around me. And this is the only outlet for these discussions that I get. I work solely by myself at work. Nobody else is doing this,
Heck
so I
yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'm so glad to hear that. Honestly, that makes the whole thing worth it just hearing that. Um, and I know we have less than a minute, but Michael, I see you at some future events. We'll do a Claude Flow hack next week. And Garrett, dude, great seeing you, man.